All right, well, I will call this meeting to order at 6:59, and we'll do roll call. Brandon Colo.
Present.
Make us wait for it. I like that. Melanie Macy.
Here.
Carla Getz.
Here.
You sound like you're unsure if you're here. Catherine Rebound Payne.
Here.
Roxanne Plater.
Here.
Erin Van Beek.
Here.
Ooh, Erin's got big echo. And you're here twice? Do you have dual monitors, Erin?
No.
You guys see Erin twice? You see her face and an extra Brady Bunch box?
I do, and that can be the problem with the echo.
Yeah. Carol, do you have any tips on that?
Yeah, I just muted the one where her picture is not showing.
Okay.
If you have two devices in the same room, both in this, you're going to get that feedback. So, you're showing up one with the picture and one without.
Okay. Mark Walton.
Present.
And Stacy Woodward is here. Okay. Next, we have public comment. Carol, was there any public comment?
There was none phoned in this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have announcements. In communications, I have an announcement about a communication. On August 10th, I received an email from Linda Graham, board member Linda Graham, and it reads, "To whom it may concern, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of the Royal Oak Library Board. I've learned a great deal about the inner workings of the library and have come to appreciate all the behind-the-scenes work of the staff and the board. Unfortunately, since being appointed to the board, my family and I have been afflicted with various health conditions, which have caused my time and focus to be other than on the board's duties. Due to this, and that I will be moving to Lapeer in June, I believe it would be in the best interest of all for me to resign from the board. Sincerely, Linda Graham." So, Linda, we wish her well and appreciate her time and energies that she's spent on the board. I forwarded the resignation to the mayor, and he'll be working to find a replacement. I also requested that the mayor put out another round of seeking up an all call for people who might want to join this board in particular, because it feels like if you put it in an application a couple of years ago, you might be feeling very differently about that now in this strange situation we're in, and people might be newly interested in it as well. So he's agreed to do that and to fill this spot as soon as it's possible. So that's my announcement. Does anybody else have announcements or communications?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Roxanne does.
Hi, Roxanne.
Hi. I just wanted to let everyone know that the new standards for CUSAC are on the Library of Michigan website. And I went through the new standards. There's a significant number of changes. I have highlighted the changes. It is in a CUSAC folder on the drive, as well as the previous submissions, and it has been shared with everyone. So just to give you a couple highlights, there's a number of things addressing inclusive, I'm not going to be able to say it today, diversity and inclusiveness. So there's quite a bit of that. Accessibility is another one that there's some changes in. There's a couple financial things in the governance that might be a good idea to look at. I only noticed one thing in the building area that the committee, the building facilities group might want to look at. And there's also something about immigration and citizenship, providing resources for people that need that. And it's expanded some of the things with the number of elective measures Just a note, when you go for CUSAC in 2 years, you're going to have to recertify both as an essential as well as the advanced. And there's significant changes in the first level, but I don't think there's anything that's going to present a serious problem.
And to
So I
clarify,
just wanted to get that out there because I won't be here.
so a few of us are term limited. We're at the end of our term. So that's why Roxanne is saying, when you all go for the CUSAC,
That's
pass on some institutional knowledge to fellow board members. We appreciate
yes,
it. And
so.
it's been shared in the Google Drive? Is that where you shared it?
Yeah, it's on the Google Drive. And that way I figured if anyone takes a look and wants to ask me any questions in the next couple months, while I'm still a captive audience, this would be the time to do it.
Thank you, Roxanne. Brandon.
I just want to add to our Roxanne is that strategic planning has 3 members, Roxanne being the 3rd. Maybe now's the time that we start thinking about in a meeting sometime, 1 or 2 meetings before Roxanne concludes her service, and if anyone else wants to join that committee, because I know Linda was a former member of that committee also.
Yes. Good point. Thanks, Brandon. Think about that. Yes, Melanie.
Is Roxanne, your term limited out this year?
Yep, at the end of this year, I'm done.
Okay.
9 years.
Okay.
Is Roxanne the only one who's done this year?
Technically, I am because I replaced somebody.
But you can be appointed. We cannot, because
Okay.
there's a term limit overall.
Okay, 3 years.
Stacy, you're not term limited yet though, because you have 1 more year.
1 more year. Because I did what Aaron did, where you fill in a partial term, and so it doesn't start until your first full term for the term limiting, counting the terms for the term limits.
Emily, I did notice that on the website it says that my term ends this year, but actually it ended last year. Like I should be on track with Brandon and Mark.
Okay,
The website's
thank
just
you. I will
incorrect.
change that.
Okay. Any other announcements or communications? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to the approval of the agenda. I would like to add on to the committee liaison report after DDA. I'd like 10C to be a Friends liaison report. You could just add that in.
Can I move the approval with 10C, but removal of acceptance of the minutes?
You want to remove the acceptance of the minutes?
Yes. I typed them. They weren't, that's a draft copy. That's not.
Revisit it at the next meeting?
I would like to revisit, I'd like to table it to the next meeting.
Okay. That seems fair, because
I left in a shared folder that was not ready to be shared yet.
inside look at your process.
It's good inside look.
So we're going to remove acceptance of minutes and revisit that at the next meeting, and then add committee liaison reports, C, Friends liaison. Anyone want to move that? Did you move that?
I moved it.
Is that you moving it? Okay, Brandon moved it.
I'll second.
Okay, Melanie seconds. Discussion?
So I already see a C on there, liaisons for June. Was something else removed before?
We want to add a Friends liaison report, and then now liaison.
Oh, and then that goes below it. That'll become D. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that this motion was passed unanimously. Okay, so we're gonna skip past the approval of the minutes because that's not even on our agenda anymore. Okay, next we have a happy thing. We have a staff report from Emily Crosby. We're so excited to hear about this. Welcome to our meeting. Thanks for coming. Tell us about the good work you did. We're excited.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for the congratulations. Emily helped out a lot, so I really appreciate all of her assistance with it. But we have obtained a $10,000 grant, which is a match kind. So technically it's a $20,000 grant. But we've obtained it from the National Endowment for the Arts, and we're going to use it for creation of a makerspace specifically geared towards the arts. And we have just a couple of things I wanted to share that we are bringing into it. Some sewing machines, embroidery machine, and a heavy duty machine, a Cricut maker machine, and also knitting kits with 10 straight needles and 10 circular needles, perler beads, canvas boards, clay materials, printmaking materials, photography things, so like a green screen, Photoshop, a camcorder, and a photo printer, as well as an instant camera, a button maker, a Lego wall, and also computer and power supplies to go along with a lot of the equipment. We're also getting a vinyl to MP3 conversion software, which I'm kind of excited about. And also storage carts and everything to go along with it. It's just a couple of the things. But it's really gonna be an amazing space, and I'm so excited. So thank you guys, and thank you, Emily, for all of your help with it.
Thank you. I wanted to just reiterate how hard Emily had to work on this, and she was in such difficult circumstances. She started it before we closed, and then she had to do everything without being able to access her drives at work. And I got to witness the back and forth that she had to do to try to contact people who are a lot of times out of the office too. So I am so proud that she was able to make this happen, and so thankful to her for all her hard work and commitment to this project.
Happy to do it, and anytime. Well, after this one.
Questions from board members or comments? Carla.
This is wonderful news. Thank you so much for all of your work on it. It's so exciting. We've been, talking about creating a makerspace and making changes to our building and doing all of this background work towards plans, and you're just jumping in and making it happen even before we could get there, and it's so exciting. So thank you. I do have a couple questions about it. I was wondering, I think you already kind of answered them. I was wondering if there were any sort of limitations on what you would order with it, and it sounded like you're focusing on arts. And I was wondering if there was a deadline on the spending, or if had you already ordered it, or just a few details about that.
Oh yeah, of course. So we just have started talking to finance to let them know that this is coming. The grant officially starts in December of this year, and then it will go until 2021 of December. So I haven't started ordering anything yet. I'm still reading through the handbook and everything with it. It's a little bit of a monster. So I haven't wanted to touch anything with it until I'm pretty certain with everything. We did send out our thank you letters to everybody. So we sent them to the grant committee and the chairman of everybody for the endowment. And we're specifically focusing on the arts because the grant is from the National Endowment for the Arts. So it all has to be an arts focused program. So as for a limit for the spending, I'm gonna try and get it done within like the first couple of weeks that the grant starts, just so that we can get the space set up and we can get all of the circulating like stipulations behind them, all the different things, what can and can't go out, and then what kinds of things circles need to start looking for when those things start coming back. And Emily, I know, was possibly looking into some different machines to help sterilize stuff. So that'll be incredibly helpful, especially with the machinery.
Erin, you had your hand up before.
Oh, I was just going to comment. Well, first of all, it's so exciting. Congratulations. It's so exciting to have something to look forward to and a piece of normalcy, like going into the library and sitting down and creating something just sounds so normal and exciting. Really gives me something to look forward to. I was just wondering what kinds of things, if anything, we'll be able to check out of the Make It room.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're looking at the sewing machines. There's going to be a regular one, a embroidery machine, a heavy duty machine, and also a serger. So I don't know if anybody else sews, but I'm kind of excited for all the different things that are coming in. There's going to be a dress form as well, and the knitting kits will be able to be checked out, and as well as the photography items. So like the green screen and all the cameras that come with it, or that we're bringing into the library, as well as like the camcorder too. So we're going to have a video camera for kids who are able to start like doing their school projects with it, especially if they have to record it. The vinyl and the MP3 conversion will have to stay at the library just because it's a software.
Okay.
But the embroidery machine will have a computer that hopefully it can travel with, because you have to use a program on it to be able to create the embroidery designs mostly.
That's amazing. There's so many items that people might have one project in a year and in a few years where they need that one particular item, and now we can supply it. That's just awesome. Very excited. Thank you.
Melanie?
Yeah, I'm super excited too. I just wanted to ask if there's anything that the building needs to do, like the facility needs to do to accommodate all of this. You know, obviously we've talked about makerspace, and this is a little different than what we had anticipated, but we want to be ready for it. So what do we need to do?
Well, we probably should start with measurements for, we were planning on CD, the room CD. We will probably have to start taking measurements. There is some like tables that I included in the money that we're getting from the grant. So it will be like sturdy work tables. But everything just depends on how big the room is and what we can fit and the storage containers that we have. So once I'm back in, I'm out for this week. We just got a new kitten, so I have to make it kind of all fine here. But once I'm back, I'm gonna start measuring and hopefully, or have somebody help do that, and we can get started on really cementing what storage items and what different things we're gonna need. I mean, unless we have any other place that we can put it, I think that's probably the best space right now. Oh yeah, we do.
I was just going to jump in real quick to when we were deciding on what to order for it too. One of the things we talked about is, because we don't know and we'll have that dedicated space available, having stuff that we could pull out for a program if need be. So stuff that, you know, we could move around, we could move in, we could design programs around. So in case we don't have a dedicated space right away, we could still make use of it. Or set up like pop-up maker spaces too. We had talked about that.
Brandon?
Okay, so I just want to join the chorus of everyone that's so excited for this. We've been talking about this for years now, so I am absolutely thrilled that we can actually offer this. And when I envisioned our makerspace, I had like these grandiose dreams of what it was going to be, and you made it happen. Like I wanted a lot of this stuff, so it's so cool to see this happening. So thank you for doing this. So I have two big questions about what we can offer. And you mentioned when you're going through a long list of all the items you're adding, Photoshop. Are we going to have a computer terminal set up in the makerspace room that is going to be exclusively for the use of the makerspace for that Photoshop software?
Yep, we plan on, like Emily said, making it all, planning on making it all mobile. So we'll have a laptop hopefully set up with it, or a movable desktop. It just depends on what equipment we can get. I think some of the computers, just because some of the equipment a lot of it needs like specifically dedicated computers. I was going to use like some of the old computers that we're getting from because Ed's replacing a bunch. So I have a couple saved already for like the desktops. The laptops I will have to buy probably, but hopefully we can have it stay there But it just depends on what we can use that space for and what the public wants to use it for too.
So I would encourage, instead of using used computers, I think maybe the budget committee could get together and discuss potentially buying new. I'd rather put a state-of-the-art good computer in there than an old CPU that's not going to last us a while. So I think that's open to discussion, and I'm really excited about that. My second question is, some of these items that you mentioned require materials of some sort to print on, to knit with, to, for whatever. Are you proposing that we provide any supplies for some of these, especially some of the more unique items?
Not really, no. The sewing machine, we might have to include like some extra bobbins, and we're not going to have needles or fabric or anything like that. There's not going to be any like yarn included in maybe for like if we do a program and it's a take home for that. But otherwise, if it's just going to be checked out, then the patron has to provide those specific materials for it. So it's really going to just depend on what it is. Like the embroidery machine, we're not including thread. We're including the software, but we're not going to include the thread.
Is that, so I've never embroidered anything, or actually seen an embroidery machine. Is that something I can just go to Michael's or Joann's and the thread is readily? A lot of head shakes, yes, okay.
Yep, it is really cool, and it's all computerized, and there's a screen actually in the machine, so you can just easily change stuff around, but the laptop's going to help with the software too. I have a lot of stuff that I want to embroider. Maybe some of it was a little bit for me, but I think the public will really enjoy it.
That's awesome. And then the last thing I'll say is that we've set aside some funds also to, like we were looking at Makerspace and looking at tables for Makerspace and what we wanted there. So I think, you have $20,000 to spend. I had also talked to the facility committee about what they thought about buying, because maybe we bought or plan on buying tables that you want, and I'd rather buy more awesome technology with that money if we can. So, but thank you for getting this done.
And I do want to clarify too, it's a $10,000 match in kind. So that means we front up $10,000, meaning it's like in staff time. So me budgeting and managing this is going to be taking up a lot of the money. So we technically have $10,000 for everything. I can include a full listing of everything if you guys would like. This was just kind of a quick overview of it. Sorry, 10%. But other than that, yeah, we can look into all the other stuff too for tables. That's a great idea. I'm so excited about this other stuff I can get now too, or potentially.
Melanie.
That doesn't sound like a kitten. So, no, I wanted to ask, what was the impetus behind applying for this grant? How did it come across your desk? What made you think of it? How did this come about?
I think a lot of it just was it was an accident. They called Mary's phone, I think. And I have Mary's old phone. So I talked to Emily about it. It was
They were right asking for Emily, right?
Yeah, they asked, yeah. But it turned out really well, I think, because Emily had so much she had to do during the shutdown that it really, we probably wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you did so much. So it just kind of fell into my lap, kind of. And I talked to all the staff to see if they had any ideas, because I didn't really know how to spend $10,000 at first to make up the proposal and everything. So a lot of people helped with that. And Amy really helped a lot with some of the shopping and more specific things that I needed too, because I had big grand ideas about just certain objects. And she's like, oh no, we need this and this and this too. So it was a big collaborative effort on a lot of people. So I could not have done anything without everybody else helping.
Thank you again, Emily. Any final questions for Emily? So Emily, you're welcome to stay on Or you could just say goodbye now and go play with your new kitten. And it sounds like maybe a dog wanted attention. We will not be offended if you need to.
Okay. I will probably go feed the dog and feed the cat. Thank you guys so much for having me tonight.
Thank you, Emily.
Of course. See ya.
Okay. Mark.
Stacy, I have an unstable internet connection,
I
so
know you keep leaving and coming back.
yeah, it's okay right now, but it wasn't. So hopefully it's okay, but wanted to let you know.
Thanks, Mark.
Just heard some thunder roll in. That's not going to help your internet connection.
All right. Okay, so that means we have to get to our next guest. This is a very exciting night. We have all these guests at the library board meeting.
Special guest night at the library board.
It is. Welcome, Aaron. Is it Filipski?
You got it.
Filipski? I got the first time?
Yep.
It is so nice to meet you, Aaron. We've been hearing nothing but amazing things about you from Emily and how amazing you are to work with, how responsive you are, and we are so happy to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Stacey, nice meeting you as well. And if any of you I haven't talked to, nice to meet you. I know some familiar faces here.
So I'm wondering if maybe you could just introduce yourself to the group, and then I understand there was a park update and there might be some Q&A, right? Is that the plan? Okay, great.
Yep. So I'm the Director of Public Services. I was given this park project as a welcome to Royal Oak gift. But I've enjoyed working on this. I worked in the city of Royal Oak before, the city of Birmingham for 3 years before this. And actually I recognized Catherine because I worked in the city of Sterling Heights for 11, 12.
I always thought I knew your name. And so seeing your face today, I'm like, I think I do recognize him.
Yep. So that's I guess the brief introduction on me. But I want to talk about this park. So as you know, we presented the 90% design to the Downtown Park Task Force on the 27th. And out of that, I know a lot of you couldn't attend, but I hope all of you have been able to actually see the presentation. And if not, it's available on the Downtown Park Task Force agenda as a hyperlink within the text document. And I would suggest getting that and looking at it, but I'm sure all of you have. I'm going to be willing to answer any questions, and I'm really looking forward to your feedback as well, just not only about the terrace, but the park generally. But I think leading into that, some of you did provide some questions that you had from the presentation that I think maybe I'll just go through in order first. And I think I'll cover a lot of ground that way, and we'll fill in the gaps otherwise. So there was one question about the grassy area, that used to be used to host events, and it seems like now there's a lot more concrete, so those events will get pushed farther into the park. And the question was whether they would still get recognized as library-sponsored events, being that they're sort of more distant from the library. And yeah, absolutely. And in terms of sharing that space, the whole intention of the park is not to be exclusive to any one body of the city, not just the DDA, but obviously the library. So there would be a lot of sharing and cooperation going on in terms of that. Absolutely. There was some, and I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. I'm sort of going in the order that they were presented to me. There was a question about the bike fix-it station. So the one that currently exists now, there's nothing in the plan to replace that, at least in the design, but we can salvage it. And that's something that our staff can do at DPS. So I wouldn't want to include that into the park plan. And I'll make note of that we want to save that. Because as I understand it, I have never seen it, but one exists, correct? Right near the library? Okay. Yep, we can keep that. But it also mentions in this question about a space for masks, gloves, and mittens. Is that something that exists currently on the porch there? I can't recall. No?
Yeah, it's the railing. We tie up the stuff on there. Like we have a mask up there currently, and in the winter they do scarves and hang them up there.
Oh, okay. So yes, there will be a railing. I didn't know if there was like a very specific piece of furniture or something out there that was used for that. So, and then there was a question about bike racks. The design does not include any bike racks within the park. The plan shows them. We've decided that we will acquire those on our own, and they're relatively simple to install. That would be one of the very last things we did as part of this project. So we'll acquire those and then determine the location. I think everyone's sort of in agreement that they maybe shouldn't be on the pavement right in front of the library or in the park proper, but right, at the entryways in the green belts. But we'll have time to sort of hammer that out in more detail when that time comes. The butterfly garden is the big question. We had the designers go out and look, and knowing what they know about installing that sort of thing, they seem to think that they could do it with very minimal damage along the retaining wall. There would be some, maybe 2 to 3 feet, that would have to encroach on the existing garden, but they could make efforts to preserve the rest of it. Knowing that there was some concern about it, I'm going to get MKSK and the construction team to actually go out in field and verify that, because it's one thing for the designers to say, oh, they can do that with only 3 feet of space, and then I don't want there to be a conflict when the guys go out to actually build it. So we're going to verify that before that begins. But they did know from the very beginning in designing this that was a very important space. Let's see. All right, the furniture on the library terrace. Yeah, as it stands now, the furniture will match the existing portable furniture that's elsewhere in the park. However, they didn't include it in the initial design because they wanted to sort of see how much they had to play with. They seem to think that there's enough in the budget that they could potentially work in some more architectural type seating on the terrace, or just maybe if not architectural, just something more permanent. And so they're going to work on that and come up with some alternative proposals that within the next couple of weeks they should be able to pitch to us and to share with you guys and provide some feedback on if that's something we would choose to do. Here again, it's not so important that we make a decision on that immediately, because that doesn't really change the construction documents any. That would just be sort of an amenity that we'd add as like a piece of furniture. So that, stay tuned for that. As soon as I have that in hand, I will pass that off to Emily and she can share with you. That question was, will they be reset each night by park maintenance team? Now we're sort of still figuring out how that's going to work. I think in normal weather during the summertime, I don't see why they couldn't stay out overnight. But depending on what sort of programming we have, we'll have to do that, and we will have a team to do that. Electrical outlets on the terrace. Yes, there are electrical outlets, at least 2. We kind of limited it because we could have put them on all of the poles, but it really drives the price up. 2 should be sufficient, I think, for whatever kind of programming we might need there. And let's see. So yeah, that answers that question. So the question asked, what happens to the current library entrance? There's no demo plan. I guess if you mean like the actual platform that you're standing on before you go into the library, this terrace will be built along that. There may have to be some rebuild of that retaining wall that runs along the side of the pollinator garden. But other than that, I guess I don't really understand this question. We can circle back on this one, but you know, there would be some restriction to get in and out of that entrance at some point, that, you know, the 11-mile entrance would have to be considered. We can go back to that one because I'm not sure I really clearly understand that question. The bike parking, we already went over that. We went over the flower garden. No Wi-Fi access, no public Wi-Fi access, but that's something that we definitely could add, but it's not part of the plan. And the old play equipment, we could save, and just for nostalgia's sake, or whatever, find some place to put it in a different park. I don't know if we want it. We don't want it out within this design, unless there's some real strong objection or some issue with that. But we can definitely save them and figure out what to do with them later. We do that with a lot of things. So, and then lastly, here's where I have a question. There was a question about the time capsule being left in place. Where precisely is this time capsule?
Butterfly garden.
Oh, it's not within 3 feet of the retaining wall, is it?
It might be.
Okay.
It's not, but at least it actually leads up to the butterfly garden. It's before all the planting, so it's actually in the grass before the butterfly garden.
But then the question is, how buried is it? And there may be some excavation type work going on there so I wouldn't want to. That's a good question. So if we could, at some point, we're going to be out on site before they start tearing things down. Let's try to pin that down a little closer to make sure. I'll arrange that with Emily somehow. But that's a really good point. I'm glad somebody mentioned it. Wouldn't want the backhoe to dig up the time capsule by accident. So that concludes the questions that were sent to me in advance of this, but I'd be happy to answer any others. and hear what you have to say.
Okay, here. Okay. Well, I'm going to let Roxanne start. Is this a butterfly garden question?
Of course.
So, Roxanne is a master gardener and has spent a lot of time in that butterfly garden.
Yes, I'm currently the project manager for Michigan State University Extension of that garden. So, thank you for the mulch, by the way.
Oh, they did get it to you. Good. Okay, good.
Yeah, it really, they followed the paths we made and everything. It looks really great. So thank you on that. A couple of questions, one pertaining to the garden, and I saw the presentation, and obviously I must have not got my questions to you in time. Get them. But there's two areas, one along the wall that was mentioned with that. And one of my concerns was, because I'm aware that there is going to be some meeting, if there's some things we want to save, try to save. If we've got an area with tarps, mulch, and compost, and possibly needing some help in digging, you know, we could probably do that with a few. Okay. So if that's needed, that is doable. And the other area, this is not really formally part of the butterfly garden, but the area that is by the library where the windows are at ground level, which is the staff workroom, there's also some flower plantings down there, and I didn't know if any work is going to be done over there that we might need to dig some of the things out. There's some awful old shrubs, and I call them attack plants, things which we don't care about, but the flowers and a couple of shrubby things, yes, we'd like to at least get out of there.
Where, can you explain that, where that location was again, so I can?
Okay, the east side of the library. And there's the windows that are at ground level that face Troy Street. There's plantings in there. For a long time, it was just wood chips, and there's a flower garden, basically, kind of an extension of the butterfly garden, so that the staff can see it.
Yes, so we do have electrical gear. The gearbox for the electrical will be going on that side of the building, but as I recall on the plan, it's a lot closer to the sidewalk than the building, and I think it was minimally disruptive, if anything. And in fact, I think they located it so they wouldn't have to remove a tree. But I'll put that on my list with MKSK to go out and get some better verification on that, and ask Colasanti, the construction team, to make sure that wouldn't be excessive damage to do that work there as well. But I think we hammered a lot of that. I think we'll be okay, but I'll verify.
Okay. And one other question.
Sure.
One of the things is, I know there's going to be a lot of plantings, because yes, I watched that and actually had to go back and watch part of it again because I had bad connection with the storms that had come through. There's a lot of plantings, a lot of things. Is there any consideration being given to using some native trees and shrubs? And I'm thinking particularly when you get close to the butterfly garden, to kind of continue that theme of native trees and even host trees and shrubs, to continue that theme of pollinators, like into the garden and into the park itself.
Yeah, and I think we would have a good opportunity. So this 90% design, they don't have that all finalized. And I think we're at the appropriate spot that we should arrange, and we can set it up where we can actually meet with MKSK, and we can provide some of that feedback directly from you. I think would be even better than coming from me.
Oh, great.
So that would be willing, and they're more than willing to sit down like that. So we can set that up, because I think they can, and they are looking for input on design. I think they have a good preliminary design, but certainly to meet your the library's preferences, they would go that route. So all right, we'll set something up. Yeah.
Great. Next. Let's see. No one. Oh, Melanie.
So I didn't submit this question, but I've talked to Aaron about it already. About those coverings for the terrace. So I was on vacation last week. I did not watch this meeting, so maybe it was asked and answered, and I will watch it. But I would take a summary if we had one now, because I mean I think I expressed to you, and I've expressed to most of the board my concern that it neither gives good shade nor good covering from severe weather, which feels like it should.
So I couldn't say it as eloquently as they explained it, to the extent that they did in the meeting. But I came out of it more convinced that from the preliminary, very, very early, like rendering designs, it wasn't even anything they selected. That was more transparent, I guess would be. There was like no shadow cast, it seems, on that. In this, I think they did a pretty good job of convincing me anyway that it serves more of a function than just look. And that was, I forget the gentleman's name. Shoot. Anyway, I guess I don't know what else to say about it, because I honestly couldn't describe it the way he did, but I came away from more convinced that it does. And the idea about it stopping rain, we actually built that into it upon request, kind of, but even the very early one, the idea of the terrace was never to actually provide like a full shelter on it. So I think what they proposed since the very first renderings arguably covers more in terms of rain coverage and shade. And the idea is that the shade, the reason they have those sort of oriented in a certain way is so that it gets this kind of mix of shadow patterns on the terrace itself, on the surface. And it's sort of supposed to cast a cool kind of ambiance or something to it. I can't do it justice the way you described it.
So I gotta watch it. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. What's that?
I gotta watch it. That's what you're telling me.
Sorry. Well,
what was that, Brandon?
I know what's it. He called it dappled shade.
Is that what it was?
Where he was using it.
Right.
Dappled. Yeah.
And that describes it pretty well. And I also wasn't convinced about how these things would. I had a lot of concerns about this colored material. I believe it's aluminum or steel. How these were going to endure from a maintenance perspective. And he described it, and they didn't bring it up at the meeting, but it's if you know the stuff that roller coasters are coated with, and they have the tracks that get beat up really bad by cars day in and day out, and they have consistent color on them, it's the same finish that would be on these. So I walked away from it. That was my big concern looking at it, was that this would be a maintenance problem, or it would be full of really specialty parts that couldn't be remanufactured should need be. And I walked away from it more convinced of that. But I did share some of the concerns. But Melanie, I don't know if that answers your question. Does it?
It does, and I think I'll watch the presentation and learn more. I mean, I still feel the same way that like a dappled shadow, no matter how beautiful it is like a pain in the butt when you've got 3 kids and are trying to sit under the shade or under the sun, but not both, and it changes every 10 minutes. So were
you under the impression that it would be just like a solid?
Not solid, but like consistent. So the fact that it's like a hole, and you know, I mean, even if like I thought it was going to be like an oak leaf like this, right? So that you could place a table under.
Had that. Earlier renderings had like a leaf design, a solid.
The whole terrace itself looked more like a leaf, I think, from above on that.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought that there would be some. I thought it would be more like overlapping leaves, and I mean, really, the hole is what's bothering me, because it seems like every 5 seconds you're not going to be in the same shade or shadow you were before, and if you. I'm not saying that it should be like, I agree, it should not be a full terrace where everyone is shaded from all weather, but like if it starts to pour, there's nowhere else in the park that you can stand for even a moment. And it just seems like having the only shaded place have a hole in it just seems weird to me. So, but I'll watch the presentation. I'm willing to be convinced. I'm just skeptical.
It also looks like a funnel that would dump the rain on you.
That was my concern, and it doesn't. So they actually, it channels the water out, so it wouldn't actually just like funnel through there, because that was the exact comment I had as well.
Yeah,
okay, magical. Melanie, they're magical. All right, Erin.
I do believe in Harry Potter.
I watched the presentation on the 27th, and I wrote, one of the things I wrote was runoff, ? And shade, because those were my concerns too. And they specifically said that there would be no water runoff. And they said that it provides the same amount of shade as trees would. You're still going to get little openings if you have trees, because that was my concern as well. I will say they had it in like 8 slides, how they got from an oak leaf to what we see. And I got a little lost between the 8 slides, so I don't really see the oak leaf.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still beautiful. And I really love how they open up the terrace, the trees right now that line the building, the trees and the shrubs. Once they get rid of that, it really creates a lovely large terrace, because right now the ramp as it is, it's pretty tight. You know, if you have 2 strollers going up that ramp, it's pretty crowded. So I thought it opened up some really great space and lots of seating options. Yeah. But yeah, the canopy posed some concerns, but the main concerns that we all share, they did seem to address it.
That's a good point that you brought up, and it reminds me, back to Melanie's kind of question, some of the stuff they discussed about this design. It required fewer, so if you do this big overlapping leaf thing with these big pieces of steel, you need a lot more support columns for all of this. So this they were able to do with a very minimum.
I think it was 5.
Few of those, yeah, or I think even fewer, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 5, and a couple of them just branch off from each other. So what it results in is a lot more open space on the surface, and to do that otherwise, just to even be able to bear that weight from that sort of a structure, it would have created a bigger imprint down there. So that was one thing. I wanted to circle back to Aaron about, I want to caution that not that there wouldn't be no runoff. It will drain onto the patio, to the cement, and then roll off from there, as if it were raining anyway. But no runoff in the sense, like, it, at least as they say it's designed, it's not supposed to spill over the edge of one of those and fall on somebody's head.
Right, or down all the holes. You know, it's like a waterfall, or that you're trying to navigate
in some way, but it's not like just dumping out where somebody wouldn't expect it. It would drain to the ground.
Was that everything, Aaron?
I did have one comment. I had a thought when you were talking about furniture and adding more seating. Just an idea to add kids seating, kids tables, right outside the library. My kids and I read outside the library on the front steps all the time. It'd be awesome to have child-sized seating.
Okay. Yeah, that would be something too that we wouldn't necessarily have to be incorporated into the design as a piece of furniture. That could be outside the design, but within the scope of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine.
My only question is, you noted, and I've been recovering from surgery and wasn't able to watch it, the furniture that's portable, does that stay out all year long, or does that go away in the winter time?
It goes away unless we have an event or a reason to take it out. And we're still debating, we're still figuring out where exactly we're gonna have to store these things. Because as you know, this new design has a bathroom structure, single stall bathroom with storage on another side of it. But it's really minimal what we can put in there. So that's TBD. We're working that detail out. But yeah, we can move them around. They won't be there year round.
And you mentioned potentially permanent type seating. Is that to go in that terrace area that you're considering still?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Because on a nice day in the winter, I could see people still wanting, I mean, it looks nice still. I can see people maybe still wanting to sit down.
Tighten up your boots or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be able to present that hopefully within a couple of weeks. You guys should have some view of that.
Mark.
Yeah, so Aaron, thanks for coming.
Sure.
I'm a fan. I think that the terrace and the shade feature is stunning. It ties the library into the park as a whole, I think. And I want to congratulate you and your task force. I think you've done a terrific job.
Well, thank you. I'll share that with the team.
Yeah.
Other questions? Aaron.
Is the stage right on the south lawn in front of the library, that new stage area, will that be something that the library would have to reserve, or is that's open to anyone? Because I could see that being really cool for some of the programming we do, like outside concerts.
Yeah, how we're going to do this sort of time sharing with some of these cool amenities in the park will have to be hammered out. But absolutely, it's built in the spirit that it's not any one group's place, it's everybody's. And so absolutely library programming could go there. And there would be a system set up so that, you can plan things comfortably knowing that somebody wasn't going to have something double booked on it or something. So yeah,
Right.
we would do that, and you'd have the access you would need for sure.
Emily.
Oh, mute.
I watched the presentation, but I missed this part of it. The bathrooms, they look pretty open. Is there a way to actually close those off? And they do have a roof, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I know it doesn't, it's not apparent, but yes, there is. So what do you mean close those off? So are you looking at the rendering and it shows like the kind
Does
of...
it actually have like a door that could be locked? Like, is there a way to lock them in the evening?
Oh, there is. So those sort of angled walls, that's just for shielding. But when you actually go behind those, there is a door that would lock. Yeah, sure.
Nice.
in a roof. We paid
Like,
extra for the roof.
thank you for putting the bathroom in. That was something we all felt really strongly about. So we really appreciate that our concerns were taken into consideration.
Yeah.
And that it was right next to the splash pad, not the splash pad wasn't right next to the library with the bathrooms on the other side of the park.
Yes. And
I was very happy to see that.
yeah, and unfortunately they keep every rendering of this, they keep illustrating it with kids hopping in and out of it, and that was really never the intention. As they mentioned in the presentation, the kids undoubtedly will do that, but I don't think we want to advertise it as that, and that will go on a timer. So it's not like we're going to say, hey, the splash pad's open today. It's not a splash pad, and it'll be time, so you wouldn't really even be able to predict when they're on if they are. So
I will say, if there is a fountain, kids will jump in it. My daughter jumped into the fountain at Shane Park in Birmingham, so
oh, really?
That's not meant to be jumped in.
No.
Brandon.
I'll say my son jumped in Star Dream not too long ago, so you know it happens.
The kids are like planning this. They're talking about it at school or something. It's like a new dare among kids.
So Aaron, I just want to start. I love the design, like everything about the park itself. Like I'm a huge fan. I like the amenities that you added. Happy with the bathroom. If you can add any more interactive features for kids, like maybe on the bathroom wall, you have a big wall there you can use. Stuff for kids to touch. That's great, but I love it. Circling back, I sent you addressed a lot of the questions I had that I had sent out. So I want to circle back to the dappled design of the shade on the funnels, just because I agree with Melanie here that I'm a little worried about someone reading a book and then the shade constantly shifting, you know, or like getting in and out of the shade. So I don't know if there's like a shadow diagram, a shadow plan that MKSK provided, or if there's something we could see at the different times of the day, what that shade's gonna look like.
Yeah, they could render that for us. I mean, we would maybe take a couple of times throughout the year and a certain time, because I mean that's going to change from season to season, from day to day. But
hour to hour, yeah.
I think they have the capability of doing that. I can find out, and as long as it's not going to cost them 20 more labor hours to do it, I'll have them mock us up something.
In my experience, it always costs at least 20 more labor hours to do something like that.
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to follow on. That's fine.
So I was going to add, I also asked a question about the electrical outlets on the terrace. And I know you said there's two. We've actually recently started talking about doing some programming outside, including hosting a potentially computer lab outside or different functions on the patio. Is there a way we can add more electrical outlets to that terrace? And I just think of someone coming up to the park, going to a library and studying, it's a great spot to sit and study for a day. Especially, now when, we want people outside. I don't think we want people back inside for a very long time. It's always going to be very popular to be outside. So if I have my laptop and I only have half a day, half a charge on it, I'm going to be pretty upset in an hour when I have to leave. And two outlets, there's going to be, a fight for that spot. So I really hope there's a way that we can maybe add some more outlets to that terrace.
Yeah, I can see what the cost. I do know that, at every possible location, I really did bring the price up, but at the very least, we have a budget to work with. We can see about adding more. And even the ones that we were including, I mean, I see from your guys' perspective, you want it for patrons. I guess when in the design team's eye, it was more for us to be able to put up decorative lighting if we needed, seasonal stuff.
Yeah.
But for sure, and I think they're going to be located in good spots. So being that there's only a couple of those pillars that come up, they're going to be located at each of those locations. And from there, you could run additional power, temporary, worst case. So the provision will be there. I'll see where we stand with adding more potentially. If it really, even one more might help. But they're not going to be like jammed up against the wall. They'll be central and low enough that they'll be available to everybody. So I'll see what we can do in terms of keeping in budget and taking that consideration.
I have more comments, but I think Melanie might have a comment based on this, so I'll cede to her for a moment.
Thank you. I do. So can I go, Stacy?
Yes.
So yes, and I agree. And it's interesting that you were saying that you were thinking of it just for like the lighting of the park and everything, because for us, we're thinking of like people sitting there and using it. So I wondered if it might be, somewhat more within the budget, if each pole could maybe have 2 outlets, like one a little bit higher and one a little bit lower. Like it seems like the electric might not cost that much, because we're thinking that might work for patrons. But then also like at the like at airports now, where they have those outlets that have 2 plugs, but also like 2 USB ports, so people can charge their devices and their computers or laptops, whatever it is, at the same time. So that's all I had to say. Thank you, Brandon, for letting me say it.
Noted.
More, Brandon?
I do just a couple things. You mentioned the bike rack. The bike rack was also one of my comments, and that's because we have quite a few patrons who actually exclusively use bike as a mode of transportation to and from the library. On any given day, you'll notice our bike rack is pretty full. As much, we actually have a bike repair station out front on that patio, on that in front of the library right now. There's a bike repair station to like blow up your tires and do some basic tune-ups. So I would I'll speak to Emily on this, but I really think we should think about how to get a bike storage facility, pretty close to our facility. And then, I'm sorry.
I don't know. I just want to be clear. You're saying a bike storage facility, like something in the future, like an actual covered like thing, or do you mean
a bike rack?
Okay. Sure. I'm like, I don't know, man. That's not.
I like one of those like carbonic carousels, if you could.
Okay. Done. All right. Yeah, and
you're on tape. It has to happen now.
I promise, pinky promise. But I think we'll sort it out. But I think we can make them big or small as we want. And if we go off of the Troy Street side somewhere there, I think that's closest to the entrance. Where is it now? How distant is it from it now? And forgive me, I don't spend too much time down there.
It's right next to the front door.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know if we want it there, but close in its own dedicated spot.
Yeah, I would definitely say as close as you can to the library and the entrance. We also have, it's like a Peloton group that rides through there, and that's always their meeting spot, is the library. Like they stop and meet up and talk, and yeah, so it's.
No, remind me though, there's green space on the east side of the building, right? Other than our electrical gear and having that, I mean, are there like picnic tables or anything over there currently?
No.
Parking, staff parking?
Oh yeah, there's the well.
The well, that's right.
Like loading dock area?
Yeah, but that's the north side of the building, right?
No, yeah, that is the east side.
The northeast corner.
Well, in any case, we'll hammer it out. We'll find a good home for those bikes that's still convenient.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In worst case, if you fight hard enough, we could probably put them there too. It's just, you gotta put up a fight for it, I guess.
So speaking of things to fight for, I want to talk about the retaining wall and Roxanne's butterfly garden just a little bit more, because I noticed in the presentation that I forget the exact words that the design team used, is something that they anticipate protecting the garden as opposed to any guarantee or making sure it's insured. And you talked tonight about taking 3 feet. Can you explain this 3 feet? Like, are they adding to the wall, or is that just 3 feet that they need to go in and physically do work, and that's going to be repaired and restored when they leave?
Yeah, so that space will go back, but they'll have to disturb, at least from the designer's point of view, and they've seen these things built, they estimate that to install the pavilion correctly, they would have to encroach on that garden up to 3 feet. There's the possibility that could be less. Now, I don't want to be in a situation, I explained earlier, I don't want to be in a spot where, they, from a designer's point of view, said, oh yeah, you should be able to construct this with 3 feet. And then the builders say, no, I don't know, what kind of equipment do you use or whatever. So I'm going to have them meet up out there and double check that and look at the print and talk about the scope of that and see if that, in fact, in the builder's view, that should be all that's encroached on. But then there was go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, wasn't there talk earlier, and forgive me, I forget your name, about potentially moving some of that out of there? Is that, I understood that correctly?
Yeah, there's quite a bit along that wall, and there's some that could be relocated, some even just thinned out a little bit. So there's things that could be done. I mean, I've undergone having my front torn out, so I know that you have to have some space, but also some things fit back in, some don't, and we can pick and choose.
Yeah. So Brandon, that wouldn't be changing the position. The wall would essentially be where it's at right now.
Okay, so you just need the space to work, and we'll repair when we're done, or whatever.
That's right.
Okay, that is my big question there. And then just Wi-Fi in the park. I know that we kind of touched on it for a sec. Oh wait, before we get to Wi-Fi, those bees, they were a donation also. There's a plaque on them. So when think about how to save the bees, they're actually a donation on those. But the Wi-Fi in the park, if the city does not offer a Wi-Fi in the park, it's going to hugely tax the Wi-Fi at the library, because everyone in the park will try to use our limited bandwidth to access anything that they're doing, to the point where it would potentially probably cause us not to be able to offer some sort of that service, because we literally don't have the bandwidth. So I think there should be discussion into.
You broke up at the tail end of that there, Brandon. But no, I get the gist. You're yeah, Wi-Fi. So I don't see why that's out of the question. I don't know if we need to pursue that within the scope of the design though, because that's something we can do on our own. And every time you include it in the design, they charge you for it. So
yeah.
But I
just you might have to put infrastructure in now though, right? You might have to put the infrastructure in for that.
We do have conduits set up for electrical and other things. So there's those performance lights that are going to be in there that has its own special conduit that can be used. And really a lot of it you could just mount onto a building adjacent to it or off of a nearby tower. There's a multitude of ways we can do it. So yeah, I think that could be easily done after the fact for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's those are all my big questions. So thank you. Thank you again. I know I asked you a lot of questions today, so thank you for taking the time to be here tonight. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Anything else?
Erin.
Sorry, I had one other thought while looking at the drawing. Is there going to be some kind of wall or barrier that separates the kids' play area from Troy Street? It looks like there's a lot of greenery, but just want to know if there's something a little more permanent, like even a smaller fence, just something to separate the kids from a busy road.
I have to pull up the more detailed design, because it seems to me, Emily, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that got brought up in one of our discussions with them, and they were to include some sort of small play fence. So not something that's like 4 feet tall, but something.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that's a good point that you bring up. So it doesn't show it on this rendering, but that's not because it's not there. It's just, what they put on there. I'll find out that detail though. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks for answering all my questions.
Yeah, no problem.
I have easy questions, I think.
Okay.
So first of all, I too really love this park design and I'm really excited about it. And the things I have to say are not that exciting, but are practical, I think. So one is I'm looking at the overview that has like a bird's eye view looking down. I'm looking at where the trash and recycling receptacles are. I worry that there's one not close enough to where the people are going to gather by the library and they'll just leave their litter behind. So it could be as easy as moving the one that's already planned in the corner just closer to where I think people are really going to congregate there in that shaded area constantly. And with tables, they'll be eating and drinking. And so if we could just move it closer, people are more likely to not litter. So that's.
I'm thinking of the one that you're referencing. Where is it at relative to the terrace?
So there's, I'm looking at page, it's not numbered. It's the bird's eye view. And it looks like they're trash receptacles at the sort of 4 corners of the park and then one in the middle. But I'm wondering if the one on the west side, when you come in, which must be over by Star Dream or whatever it is, I think. Yeah. It's I, right? I is trash and recycling receptacles. I wonder if that's just move even closer to where the seating is, if that could work.
Yeah, yes, that would make sense.
Right now it's kind of by... it's a different set of bistro tables and chairs. So maybe it's adding an additional one.
Or ensuring that it's near the terrace.
Yeah, where people, if they can just see it, I think they'll throw their trash away.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
They might leave it behind. So that's one thing.
Recycle.
Or recycle, yes. It says trash and recycling. My other question is, and I echo what Mark was saying, that I feel like this really does draw the library into the park design, and I love that about it. I'm wondering if one more way to do that, as we're thinking about the more permanent furniture, is to replicate some of the permanent furniture that's in the other parts of the park. So one thing I'm thinking about is I wonder, and I'm not sure how big it is, but there's those community tables.
Mhm.
I wonder if that might be something that could work in that area. I don't know with the pool, where the pools, if the pools would get in the way of that, but it might be it would look nice in the winter too, like when it's just, people
Yeah.
could set things on, they could meet, I don't know.
The only-
Or even those lounge chairs, which would be like some color. Those lounge chairs are super cool that are in the other parts of the park. So those were just my 2 cents.
Okay. Noted.
Okay, it was worth it. I mean, while you're here, right?
Sure. Give me while you can, right?
Right.
What else you
Brandon.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this before. I made the comment about the entrance to the library in the question. While the south entrance isn't accessible, I don't know if the north entrance is ADA compliant for being our only access point. So my question is getting to the point of basically, can DPS come swing by, see if that entrance is accessible, and if not, what can we do to make sure that's compliant?
Yeah, I don't know if DPS would know the specification on that more than the engineering department might, or a building inspector, but we can have them look at that. But I think and maybe I'm wrong, but in cases of construction like that, can there be provisions to, on a temporary basis, be out of compliance, I guess, with that, or what's the obligation? There's no other entrances on the sides of the buildings where we could make that's it. Just
the only problem is I don't think it has an automatic door opening.
No.
So that's where the issue is. The south entrance has a breezeway that opens up, and it's open whenever we're open to the public, so that covers our ADA obligations. Whereas the 11 Mile entrance does not, because it was closed for so long. It was only emergency exit for most of its last 10 years of existence.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good point. I'll find an
Because
answer.
I assume you'll have to shut the south entrance at some point.
Yes.
You won't be able to.
For sure. And that would be, I'm trying to think of what time, I don't want to even venture to guess what time of year that would be. Forget it. It'll be taken as a promise.
Well, like during the task force meeting, I heard that the police building's definitely opening the 3rd week of October, so it better happen now.
Right. Yeah, right. We know what happens when you definitely say something's going to open.
Okay, any other questions for Aaron? Well, Aaron, we thank you so much for being with us. This is amazing.
Thank you, guys. This is really helpful for us. I will take this back to the team, and yeah, thanks again.
Great.
Thanks, Aaron.
You don't
Good
have
to see you, Aaron.
will not be heard if you're not interested in
All right.
library business.
Good night, Aaron.
everybody.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, next on our agenda, financial reports. Are there any, first of all, Emily, is there anything that you'd like to point out about that you'd like to draw our attention to in the financial reports?
Oh, just you'll notice that some of the state aid money has come in, which we should have another payment that comes later in the year, and the penal fines, which I do believe there's only one payment of that, and it's much lower than normal.
Okay, questions about financial reports? Carla.
That was one of my questions, Emily, so thank you. I couldn't remember if they were 2 times a year or one, and it was one of each. But my other was about roots, and is there any reason why we still need to be receiving the roots on a print off every month? Like, do we get any information from that anymore?
Well, I guess I'm confused on how the roots thing, what's going on with it, because they're switching over the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, but I'm looking and we have money budgeted toward it. Does that go to the library? Like this 44,000 that they have on here. What is that?
But that's not library
Okay,
line, is it?
no, I'm confused on what's even happening with Roots. So what is that money that's still going into it? Because I thought, from my understanding, it was gone. So no, I don't believe there's any reason that we would need it on the budget. So I'll make a note just to take it off. I think it's just always been included. So I'll make sure to leave it off the next one.
Yeah, I think the money, any donations used to have to go through Roots, and then they were given to us, and it got changed right around the time I think that you took over, or maybe a little bit before, I don't know. But and so now the money goes straight to us. And I mean, if they ever want to give us money, I think that's great. But I don't think we need the reports monthly unless anybody disagrees.
I've actually asked them too. So how we're doing donations now is we set up the PayPal, and I've asked that the money just get routed to our donations line item.
I think in the past we've checked, but the Roots Fund is empty, right? The library Roots Fund doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
That was my understanding. Okay, anything else on financial reports? Okay, we're gonna move on to library director's report. Emily, would you like to add anything?
Oh, just some updates from since the time of the report. I've learned more about the Oakland County grant that's coming in, their CARES money. So they're going to allocate money just for libraries. So this is an exciting thing. We have the cutoff is September 11th to get your proposals in. So the idea behind it is it'll probably be more on a reimbursement basis. So I'm going to go through, my plan is just to go through and stuff that, we're making some purchases right now, things like webcams, stuff that came up that we wouldn't have had to purchase otherwise, but now we need for the programming, for our meetings online and everything, putting some of those purchases in and then going through and maybe pulling some that we've made recently and then submitting those as part of the proposal. Because what's nice is at least we have a note of everything that is a COVID expense, because finances has us marking that down too. But I also wanted to make some purchases now. Just the thing is, it's kind of a time crunch, so I'm having to do it quickly because you have to actually have the purchases made and the invoice ready. So that I saw Carla. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, are you going to include the Chromebooks that we're circulating in that, in the hotspots?
It's actually under another grant. So that was the IMLS grant. So yeah, I got $5,000 for technology there. We'd already purchased some of them before the grant period started. But what's lucky is our second order of Chromebooks fell within that grant start date by 1 day. And then we ordered an additional 15 with that grant money. Just some other notes. Amy and I are going to be meeting with the communication specialist for the school tomorrow. We've already talked with Mary Beth Fitzpatrick. That's a superintendent for Royal Oak Schools. We're just trying to step in and do whatever we can to assist the schools at this point. I've learned a lot already just from talking to Mary Beth. I found out what platform they're on. They're using the Canvas Accelerate platform, and I'm so excited because LinkedIn Learning, or Linda, has tutorials on how to use it. So I'm going to be sending those out. The youth department has been working on curating a list. The schools asked for that to send out to their communications for parents. So I think it's going to be a great partnership. Hopefully we can help out as much as possible. The Chromebooks are in on time for the schools, so it doesn't look like there's going to be a huge need. I got a little nervous there for a second because I've heard from other school districts they've been having issues getting the Chromebooks in on time. So I was like, yikes, I hope everybody's not suddenly trying to rush to the library to get theirs. Luckily, though, we got a note that Faye's Chromebook is in, so I think we're good there. One thing I want to note on the adult services report that I thought was really interesting is, we got our summer reading program numbers back. Youth services was really good for being an online program, and good, just hearing from other libraries, that's really part of the course with youth services that, you're probably going to get about a quarter of your normal participation. But I thought it was really interesting that adult services actually had much, much higher participation than normal. So just one of those kind of good things to come out of a bad situation is now we know for future reference that adults really like an online summer reading program. I also, another note that came up is we just added in, I'd forgotten to add the open days. We talked about that last time, to add open days to the stats. So I added in all of the days that we were open in July. And also we're going to start adding, just to reflect that we were doing work during these open days, we're going to add visits as the contactless pickup. And then just one more thing to keep an eye on is tomorrow there's supposed to be an announcement from the governor that she's going to reopen gyms and movie theaters is what everybody's saying. So I don't know what that's going to mean as far as whether that means we're getting close to the next stage, but just something to keep an eye on tomorrow. I'm definitely going to be tuning in to see what happens.
Questions for Emily? Brandon?
So Emily, I just want to talk about the grants for a second because I think there's been a little bit of chatter on emails today, and I just have a couple questions. So the CRF grant that's designed for libraries is up to $5 million, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that has a due date of September 30th or
11th.
September 11th. So that is, I did some quick math, is $5 million divided by the amount of residents in the county, multiplied by our population. That's almost $200,000 for rural Oak if it's given out on any type of basis like that. What kind of submittals do we have? I mean, that's 10 days away. What kind of submittals
I actually would love to meet with the budget committee and talk more about this because it's kind of a weird spot to be in because the city is also, Oakland County is also going to be reimbursing municipalities. And that's why we've been told to mark down COVID expenses. So I don't know how much of that we should try to absorb because I probably could go back through finance and ask them to pull all of our COVID expenses and put that down there. I mean, maybe at this point it would be prudent since it'll be hard to make any major purchases. I know when I heard the 200,000, I had big dreams of what we could do with it. And then I heard September 11th and I'm like, oh, yikes, you're not going to be able to get this stuff done and paid for in that time, especially with if you're going to try to spend $200,000, it would need to go out to bid and things like that. So I do know they did mention something about maybe doing a second round because, yeah, I mean, I guess it just at this point, like from the call that I was on, all the libraries are just looking at it from they're going to pull all of their current things that they have for reimbursement and then just submit those. So it wasn't like anybody was planning a major project based on this grant money because we kind of just learned about it too. So yeah, it's really more being treated as just reimbursement. But yeah, I would love to take this up with the budget committee and kind of quickly make a decision on what we're going to do with this. So I'll be contacting you guys for a meeting.
Erin.
My thought went to that, I forget what it was called, that box that you could put outside the library that people could go up 24 hours a day and get a movie or a book. My immediate thought went to that is, oh, could we get that in by September 11th and call it, we need it for COVID reasons to help give access to everyone.
And I'm wondering about that because that would at least have to be a purchase order through the city. So I would have to take it in front of city commission. I'm wondering if they'll make any kind of allowance for that. Like if you're in that kind of situation, there's some questions I have that I did want to address with the grant coordinators as well.
So I would think too, the city commission meets on Monday, which is before the deadline. If we can get anything done this week that would require that, I'm sure we could ask at least finance and the city manager if they would put it before the city commission, just so we can get it done. It's money we'll leave on the table if we don't use it. It's money that's there. So any push we can do this week, and I'm willing to help in any way I can. I think we really should look at how we can utilize these funds.
Erin.
How many Chromebooks do we have now that will be available to lend out?
We're going to have a total of 35. Right now, in hand, we have 20. So we have an additional 15.
I have heard from so many of my parent friends that they're so excited about this because they need a Chromebook for their kids' schooling. I wonder, could we just purchase a lot more? I think that need's going to be there for kids who are doing the online learning.
Won't a problem be the circulation parameters?
Oh, the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like
could be a short-term solution for a lot of families.
What's that?
It could be a short-term solution for a lot of families while they figure out, do they buy a new one? What are they going to do?
Or if I've heard from parents. A lot of parents said that they wanted to check one out from us while their kid is using their laptop for school. So again, it's kind of a short-term solution, but.
Melanie.
I was just gonna say, I was on listening to one of the school board meetings and they were talking about Chromebooks and there was some question about like, hey, are we gonna have enough Chromebooks for all the students? And the response from Superintendent Fitzpatrick was that Royal Oak is actually really lucky because we have almost a 1-to-1 student to Chromebook ratio already. So pretty much any student who needs one should get them without the schools having to order them. So I mean, I think we should be encouraging if parents or families are looking for this for their schooling, especially in Royal Oak, like look to your schools. Like, so I hadn't been planning to order any Chromebooks, but when I heard that, I did, because it certainly would be helpful for our kids to each have their own independence. So anyway, just saying, I think the schools do have these resources too.
Okay, I was concerned. I thought, oh, that would be a great way to spend the money, but it sounds, yeah, that's very helpful information. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's true, but also there are a lot of families who are doing homeschooling this year who maybe weren't expecting to. So there are families that are scrambling unexpected. But I think 35 is probably appropriate. It's enough to at least feel out where the need is.
We can talk about this in maybe budget committee, but something I've been thinking about is, and maybe this is already being talked about in the partnership with Royal Oak Schools, but it feels like this is a great opportunity for the library to partner to get physical materials in the hands of kids, maybe novels that they can read, where those things could be returned back to our collection, but we sort of partner, where we find out what they're having kids read, or we could even have librarians make suggestions about some good new reads for kids to get some exciting stuff into the curriculum, because everything is like out the door and it's a new world right now with the school year. So I'm wondering, all that to say, I wonder, it feels like those could also be considered COVID expenses, because that is not something that we normally do. So
yeah, definitely.
We'll talk about that in budget committee, but Catherine?
Oh.
Catherine, did you want to say something? Oh, sorry.
No.
Erin, I thought your hand was up.
I thought I heard my name, but
Sorry, I thought your hand was up. Go ahead, Erin.
I forget if it was Amy's report or your report, you had mentioned how it's a bit more costly to do some of these programs virtually to get the supplies.
Yeah.
Put together kits. Can you just stock up on art supplies and things like that? Because that's a easy purchase that you can make and hopefully get refunded for.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And that's something we could do really quickly. Ordering online, we get a lot of stuff through Amazon. So that's definitely a great idea for an expense.
Okay. Any question? We're still on director's report in the agenda. Any questions about other parts of the report? Erin?
I don't have a question, but I did want to say my news feed, the Royal Oak Library, just keeps popping up. You've done a great job with media outreach lately.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it really, and I thanked Carol for this, because I think her giving us that spot on the city commission was just this catalyst for all these other news stories. But it's been wonderful, and it's been really positive press, and I've just been so happy with how the library is portrayed and the information that was given out. And it really did. We got a ton of calls the next day about Chromebooks, which weren't quite ready yet. So, it's good that the word is getting out. I never got to hear the public radio. Only one staff member actually heard it. So I know it did happen, but she said it was good. But I tried to catch it later and I still couldn't even find it anywhere. So they don't have the broadcast recorded anywhere. So that was the only one I missed out on. But yeah, it was just a great batch of stories that came out. I was really happy for that.
Yes, Emily, you've been a wonderful spokesperson for the library, and just you're such an excellent communicator. Like, you just really succinctly get out the points that need to get out, and well done.
Thank you so much. And there's actually Fox 2 is going to do a follow-up on the Seed Library too.
Oh.
Yeah, it was nice. He filmed. He was really interested in that, and he ended up filming a lot of the Seed Library and hearing about it and everything. So he said he wanted to feature that too.
Brandon.
Now that you mentioned the Chromebooks, I meant to ask, when will they start circulating?
Oh, I think it is going to be, I don't want to put Ed on the spot on this, but we just finalized the frequently asked questions today. We got our stickers in because we're going to put our own specialized stickers on there. So again, I would say very, very soon.
Like maybe by the next meeting type of thing, like.
Oh yeah,
weeks, not now.
before the next meeting for sure.
Thank you.
Carla.
I was happy to see your comment about the staff members attending the MLA conference.
Yeah.
How many are planning to attend?
So far, I think I have 5 who have reached out and said that they wanted to go to it. So
that's great.
Yeah, they put it out to everybody because they do a group discount, and it's much. Actually, you know, I think it's a little bit cheaper than it was in person, but they gotta make their money, so it's still. But they do a group rate, so we were looking at. You know, I said we could probably do like either 10 or 15 people. So yeah, I'll be curious to see. I'll put another call out and just do a last call and see if anybody else wants to attend. But I think it's gonna be nice. I'm actually looking forward to it because again, all the way out in Kalamazoo, I probably wouldn't have gone. So I like it online.
Any other questions about the director's report? Okay. Next, we have committee and liaison reports. Facilities committee, you had a nice report in the board packet. We don't have anything in terms of action or discussion from your committee, correct? I don't think so. Is there anything you'd like to highlight, and then do any board members have questions for the facilities committee? Go ahead, Mark.
Yes. I'm going to assume, because of time, that you've had a chance to look at the meeting notes from our August 5th meeting. We did draw up a list of items that we would like to include in phase 1 of the library improvement plan. In response, library design had a suggestion. We were proposing that we do new carpet in both the public and staff sections on the main floor, and not replace the rubberized flooring in the media and lobby area. Library design suggested that maybe we would want to rethink that the new carpeting would clash with the old rubberized flooring in the lobby and media. And so their suggestion was that rather than doing the paint and the carpeting in the staff areas on the main floor, that we do the luxury vinyl tile in the lobby media area. And I think, I didn't hear from everyone, but I think a majority of the facilities committee members were good with that. And it's basically a wash in terms of cost, because we did get a new proposal based on the items we selected from library design, and it's some $337,000. And when we back out the cost of some shelving that we decided to only purchase half of, I think it'll be very close to what we were proposing coming out of our meeting, around $333,000. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or other members of the committee could do so as well.
Melanie.
About this committee, but I still have a question. Why don't we have an action item on this today? I mean, I thought we were trying to move forward on this a little bit.
I agree. I guess the question is, what do we need to do as a board to move forward on it? What do we have to prove in order to be able to get do we have to vote to approve this to get the bid package put together, or do we not approve anything until there's an actual bid package to approve? I'm not sure what the steps are.
If you're asking me, I'm not sure either. Maybe Emily is aware of that.
I thought Stacy or Emily might know.
Part of the reason why it's not on the agenda is it just came in this afternoon. And We were uncertain for several reasons about whether or not it should go on this agenda.
In terms of process, part of me says at the last meeting, I feel like we had decided to send this back. You guys were going to narrow it, which you did. And then it feels like the real vote is about when the bids come back. So if Emily would feel better about having a motion that we vote on and then take it to the next step of the city for the bid process, we could entertain a motion even though it's not on the agenda. Yeah.
Looking at my terrible notes from the last meeting, we mentioned that we would have an action item to present to the board at this meeting tonight.
Yeah, that's what I'm remembering too. Yeah, so I think we're still all on the same page in terms of thank you, facilities committee, for meeting about it, and then a conversation about budget too. Connected to this is, could any of this be considered COVID related? Did you guys have that conversation?
So there are a couple things that might be. It has to, none of the purchases will be in by September 11th.
Right.
So for anything that has that deadline, they won't work for it. But there are some things that have possibly December deadlines that if we get moving on it, it might actually get done in time. So there are things with moving the desk in the basement. So one of the things that was briefly mentioned at the last meeting that we did end up including as the facilities committee was the teen room. We did include probably, I'd say 90% of the teen room, but not doing that, how we were gonna have those glass trendway walls that would separate it. We are planning to add that later so that it's not a separate room, which is not usable right now. And Kyle said it's no problem to add those later. So the teen room is included in this upgrade too. I think we were maybe not getting all of the furniture, but essentially we're doing the teen room upgrade included in this phase 1. So that was pretty exciting.
So if someone from the facilities committee would like to make a motion to move forward with this, we could then discuss that and vote on it.
I would motion that we move forward and present a bid package to the city to do this phase 1 that has been presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Aaron seconds. Discussion. Brandon?
I just want to say I hope we see phase 2 follow extremely closely to this. And I think there's some things we might want to look at too, especially when it comes to moving the desk in the basement. We need to do that before we move the library into phase 5 of our reopening plan. We can't open the library until that desk is moved. We can't ensure that librarians are socially distant. So we might want to look at that is a unique cost that we might want to pay LDA to perform for us and improve that. I don't know if there's any interest in that or what the logistics behind that are. Emily, if you have any thoughts, but that might be something we want to do. Sorry, I had a comment to make. Might be something wild.
Okay, other discussion? Okay, all in favor of this motion, which is to move forward. Emily will take this over to the city to get a bid package drawn up for phase 1. $332,000-ish is what we think it'll cost. Say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Let the record reflect that this motion was passed unanimously.
Woo!
Woohoo, you guys, we're moving. Thanks so much, Facilities Committee. We appreciate your diligence and your
Well, and piggybacking off of what Brandon said about a phase 2, you know, it seems like it'll be a topic in the budget meeting, I believe, that we'll have this week. But there's, you know, things are looking positive, I think, for monetary numbers. So if it looks good, I mean, you never know. Phase 2 might happen quickly, and they might end up happening even at the same time, but we're getting started on the process now. So a lots to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 2 also includes all the makerspace items, like the physical space for the makerspace. And now that we have, you know,
Yeah.
Emily just brought in all this awesome stuff, we need to build a place to put it.
It's good timing for that. It's coming together. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the DDA.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I attended the DDA meeting. So just some of the highlights. First of all, they approved building a section on the Center Street parking structure. It seems to be some kind of an office space. They're planning to lease it out. I think the phase 1 is going to be, they said $630,000. And they don't know what they're going to be doing with it yet. Let's see, they're going to be adding a bunch of lights to the side of the 11 Mile parking structure. They had to rethink the location. I think originally they were supposed to be in the alleyway. There were some facade grants for various businesses approved. They had some discussion about leniency in the CARES grant money that the DDA was giving out, because some business owners had missed the deadline or didn't know about it. So they kind of debated whether they should extend it. They're going to be doing, in place of Arts Beats and Eats, 2 small events. There's a drive-in music event, and then I think it's an online art event. And the DDA will be paying 50% of the sponsorship at $50,000. Rock and Rides was supposed to happen this year and obviously couldn't, so they just ended up adding a year on to the contract since it was a 2-year contract. They approved the sponsorship of some Chamber of Commerce events. There's a holiday event, Art in the Alley, and some other things. They are giving $5,400 to a menorah lighting event downtown. And then the best news of all is they are doing away with the $5 flat fee for parking. So it's gone. And it's going to be 2 hours of free parking at all times as well.
Is that in all lots or just the Center Street lot?
No, it should be all lots.
Yay.
All parking structures. No.
Excellent.
That's
Any questions? Is Catherine having a question for real this time?
It's not a question, it's just a comment. I'm so happy to hear that. That's such fantastic news.
I am so happy.
Is that like right away it's taking place, or is it like in 3 months?
No, they were saying that they were wondering whether they were going to extend covering the parking again. They've done it for August, so they had to make a decision for September, and they just decided to do that then to make all those changes.
Great. So we should probably communicate that to on our website too. I mean, I'm sure people drive up and do their pickup, but if they're gonna walk around town or whatever, it might be good that they know they could just park there, pick up their books, and hang out.
Sure.
Catherine.
I agree with that, especially for when we reopen again, because I think it was a real deterrent for probably coming to the library after 5 o'clock. So I do think it would be great just to get, when we're comfortable with people coming in the building in larger amounts, to make sure to communicate that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So it's like for programming, right? Like programming that starts at 5, 6.
Yeah.
They change this one half.
That's great. Okay. Next we have the Friends Liaison.
I guess that can be me again.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Just the biggest thing to come from the Friends meeting is they wanted to invite everybody. I think you should have gotten the email, but on the 21st is their annual meeting. So this one is usually in normal times they would be doing they do a reception ahead of time. They have speakers, And the idea behind it is to drive enthusiasm and membership in the Friends. So I had spoken with Richard and Carol, and they agreed they're not going to be able to host it live that night, but they're going to film it, they're going to record it, and then they'll have it up on, they'll like still advertise it on the city sites and everything like that. So hopefully it draws in a lot of people who will view it and be interested in what the Friends are doing and want to help out. So I hope that you're all able to attend as well.
Thank you. Brandon.
Have they spoken with Arts Peace and Needs about any fundraising or sponsorships from this year's bridge programming? Do you know?
Not that's been mentioned.
Okay. Next, liaisons for June. For June, it says, but I think it means to say September.
Oh, sorry.
September 14th, September 28th. So it seems to me that Emily's been doing a very good job representing all the good things at the library at these meetings. I'm wondering if you might want to mention about the grant, and I don't know, are there other ideas that folks have about what Emily might want to communicate if maybe at one of these meetings in September?
She should share about the new makerspace items.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what you meant by grants. Yes.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
And she should share about the parking.
Would you mind doing that, Emily?
No, not at all.
So Carol, out into the interwebs. Last time, Emily had a spot on the agenda to discuss these things. And it seemed like it was helpful. I'm wondering if that's a possibility again, because otherwise you would just call in to the and leave a voicemail. Is that what it would be? So I don't know if Carol can hear us right now.
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm letting you complete. We have a presentation coming up at one of the meetings, so I would suggest that we keep it separated from that, just, you know, because I think it's easier for everyone if they're just digesting one presentation. But I mean, yeah, maybe make it, you know, quarterly spot or just an as needed, because sometimes if you make things scheduled and then there's nothing fun or exciting to report, it tends to blend in. But with so much happening all the time, just a matter. I'll take a look at the city commission agenda and send Emily a couple of dates that look good. And yeah, for sure, you can do that.
Thanks, Carol. Excellent. Okay. Action items, Library of Things, circulation parameters. This must have gone through policy. Was this policy?
It did not. I'm sorry.
Right from Emily. Where did it come from?
It came from me. So I'm sorry. If you need me to take it back to policy, I can definitely do that. But yeah, so do you just want to hold off on this one then?
Well, we don't yet have a library of things, correct? You're building a library of things?
Yes.
I'll
When would it launch?
Policy review committee to see what you would prefer. Brandon?
When would you launch the library of things?
Well, that's the thing, is we are looking to get started fairly soon. We're looking at ordering the first batch of items. However, I definitely think it's something that could wait 3 weeks until our next meeting. It's nice that we have the 2 meetings this month, so I have no problem holding off until the 22nd.
My initial thought is that this is such a small, it's not really a substantive policy, right? This is kind of administrative, like how many days. This mirrors, I think, the Chromebook policy. So as the chair of the policy review, I'm fine doing it now, but it's the will of the board.
Melanie?
What would be the action we'd be taking? Would it be like, yes, you can do this? Or would it be like, yes, you can do this, and let us all hash out in committee live the details of the parameters, like circulation parameters and what will be offered, et cetera? Because if it's the latter, I'd rather do it in policy committee.
Well, you can see what's being proposed after the facilities committee. So 14 days, only local holds, no renewals, $1 per day overdue. After 21 days overdue, you get billed the replacement. That's what's being proposed. I mean, it must mirror, is
The
it
hotspots,
the
Chromebooks.
hotspot?
It's kind of become like our special item parameters.
It's consistent with those.
Yeah.
Right, so if we're okay with that, great. If we're gonna like micromanage it right now, I'd rather send it to policy review.
Okay. Is there a motion? This is one way to find out.
I'll move it.
Oh, Melanie moved it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ooh, Carla seconded. Discussion.
Okay, I want to change like 3 things about it.
Discussion.
Thank you, Emily. I'm excited for the library things.
Yeah.
This is another, like, we're doing so much in this meeting. There's so many, like, there's 3 years worth of work coming together tonight somehow.
Really excited.
Oh, I am so excited to get this started. So I think I just jumped the gun and I forgot the procedure. But I've made up the list for this, and I have to tell you, I think we are going to have the best library of things collection in the country, possibly the world, because we have so much cool stuff that we're gonna get for this.
Maybe it should be named for the most incredible library of things in the whole wide world materials.
Yeah, I like that.
Any other discussion?
Emily, we do have a cap on the total amount of fines for any one item at $5, right? So it's $1 a day up to $5 total, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Catherine?
This is a nice thing to mention at city council or city commission too.
Yeah.
Aaron?
Idea.
Let's have the same renew policy, so you can renew something 3 times.
It says no renewals.
No, oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just with the idea behind this is that some of these items I think are going to be pretty high demand. So we didn't want people to keep them forever.
Right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let the record reflect that this motion was passed unanimously.
Thank you.
I keep thinking about that scene in Elf where it's like the best coffee in the world.
Yeah.
He goes and it's like, congratulations, you did. Congratulations, Emily. You did it.
The best
Best library of things in the world.
Our next action item, let's keep the enthusiasm going, is the policy 5.10 revision, materials replacement policy. Is there a motion?
So I'm going to derail this train a little. I'm going to move to table this to the next meeting because it did not go through policy review.
I think this one actually did, didn't it? This one. So I think I was looking, we had discussed this 2 meetings ago. I think we had discussed this in policy review, and then 2 meetings ago, I had it as a discussion item. So that's the thing is the staff were asking me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that never actually got approved. So I do believe we discussed it. Does anybody from policy review remember that?
We have
Vividly. I remember it vividly.
Except this format we see here isn't the actual way the policy is written at this point anymore.
Okay.
So I would just like to write it in the correct format and do all those like little administrative things, talk about it, and get it on the agenda next time to unanimously approve.
Okay, no problem.
Everyone approve it.
There's something else that probably is going to need to go to policy review that's coming up soon. That so you'll have a good reason to meet then. So you'd like to table it. Since no one motioned in the first place, do we just move along?
Brandon made a motion to table it.
Sorry. It wasn't seconded.
Nobody seconded.
Who did?
Nobody.
No one.
Nobody. So do we just move on?
Yep.
Who's our parliamentarian? I feel like Mark is.
So it might have to go in the minutes that it was motioned, but no one seconded.
Motion died.
Well, no one motions no one made a motion. Oh, Mark's gonna help us. Mark.
Oh, it's on the agenda. There needs to be a motion to postpone to.
Okay, postpone. Look at that. So does anyone gonna second Brandon's motion? Mark, what? Discussion? Okay, all in favor of postponing this to the next meeting, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Let the record reflect that this motion was passed unanimously.
I
Okay.
really wanted to put it died.
Oh, you did? Died. It passed away. Okay. Discussion items. Delivery service. Want to have this up, Emily?
Sure. So this one I was following procedure, and I know this has to go through policy review. What I wanted to do was just, I realized that probably a lot of the board members didn't know that this was something that was being considered. So I wanted to just give you a rundown of what we are planning to do here. So the idea is to increase access to our materials, because we kind of run into some logistics problems with our contactless pickup. We do as much as we can, but we have to keep the staff spaced apart in a very small area. We also have the 11-mile cutout, which isn't huge. So we can only do so many per 15-minute time slot. So this was the idea, to increase access to it, to save money, because right now we do our homebound service, and that gets really expensive to do the mailers. And we had talked at first, we're like, well, could we just mail items out for people? And that was prohibitively expensive. So we're like, well, we need something else, some other kind of method of getting these. And lots of libraries have gone this route too. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. A lot of libraries in our area too, who I talk to on a weekly basis, Ferndale's doing it, Oak Park is doing it, Clawson is doing it, Berkeley is doing it. So I have a lot of resources that I can seek assistance from, and I already talked to them a lot about what they do. So the other thing is the vehicle situation. I wasn't sure what to do with that. You know, staff, I had a lot of staff who came forward and said they would be happy to just drive it in their own vehicles. But luckily DPS, Aaron from DPS said that he will set us up with a large van for temporary use. It's only going to be about a year of use for that. So we'll have to make other arrangements after that. But he said he was apologetic because he said it's a huge van. And I said, no, that's a great thing right now, because that way then we can have, the ideal setup would be to have 2 staff members running deliveries, one to drive, one to actually run out and drop the stuff off. I think that's good from a safety perspective and just from a convenience perspective too. Having done, you know, we go door to door at the schools and drop off the twigs. And I know that was always ideal, was to definitely have a driver and then somebody to actually run the stuff up. So that, then we're also kind of just working at the logistics of, you know, how would you actually schedule these? What kind of apps or software is available to schedule out routes? And I know Brandon had mentioned that, you know, he has access to something that could be helpful with that. Aaron said that he would help us to approach Ford and Royal Oak and see if we could get a used vehicle sponsored by them so that we could have a permanent vehicle. We've been discussing whether the staff should wear uniforms, what can make them look more official. So there's just some questions, and I just wanted to open it up for discussion before we take it to policy review, so we can just make sure we're covering any bases, or if you have any questions that you wanted to ask me about.
Honey.
They should dress up as book characters. That would be fun.
I love that.
So this is actually not super related, except you just mentioned about twigs and drop off at the schools. So schools are doing pickups for, well, at least our schools are doing pickups for their kids for the materials of the next week. I wonder if we could get twigs in those.
Yeah. So we're working right now. We just submitted the leaflet draft, so I'm going to see how quickly we can get out to print, because yeah, I would love that. We're also we want to correspond with, like, to see if the schools can get it out along with their opening materials online in an online format. So yeah, I'm just going to see how quickly I can get this to print and get it ready to go. But yeah, that's a great idea about coordinating with the schools drop-offs.
I do think that the schools are going to have, like, every 2 weeks you go pick stuff up.
That's what I was going to say. I think the elementaries at least are going to do that way.
Perfect.
Erin?
I really like this idea. My initial concern was, though, do you worry about, it sounds like you've talked to a lot of other libraries. I feel like this could become very overwhelming if I knew somebody would just drop my library books off for free on my front steps. I don't know if you guys would ever see me again. But then I feel I'm not the person that you're targeting. You're targeting people that really can't get to the library. I'm just worried that the system's going to get overrun and it's not going to serve the people that we intended it to serve.
That's a really good concern to have. So talking to the other libraries in the area, I was surprised to hear this. They said they hardly get anybody using it.
Really?
I can't imagine that being the case for us. Yeah, I was surprised. Like, they say they get maybe 1 or 2 a week. So they just, like, a lot of them, they'll just like walk it, or they're smaller cities too. So like they'll like bicycle it on the way to work or something like that. But Matt at Berkeley rides around on a scooter and delivers. It's really cute. So, but yeah, I worried about that too. We were thinking about starting it at one day as well, so that, you know, like there would just be a full day of deliveries, but it wouldn't be offered all the time, just because staffing's a concern too. You do have the staff in place to do this, especially if you have 2 people doing the deliveries.
I have a few friends from church who actually, unfortunately, they don't visit the Royal Oak Library because they're handicapped, and it's a long walk from the parking garage and whatnot, and so they'll go to like Clawson. So for those people, I could see that being great. I just don't want people like me to take advantage of it, so those people don't get it. So, but I love the idea, and I hope that we can make it work.
So the city will cover the personal injury and property damage insurance for the.
That's, you know, I actually sent that question to Aaron in email just to make sure. He and I have talked about it before, and that was my understanding, is it would be covered under our insurance. I did want to double check that, but talking to the other libraries, they said that that's how it goes for them.
How does it go? I'm sorry.
Oh, that the city's insurance covers.
And so they'll, so the city will provide something for up to a year. Then we would have to purchase a vehicle, or?
Either that or staff can use their own vehicles and then get reimbursed for mileage. I would prefer our own vehicle myself, just because it puts wear and tear on people's cars. It always puts them at risk of, you know, some kind of damage to their cars, and mileage is actually pretty expensive too.
Any chance of the old school bookmobiles returning? Like, could it be like a
I think we never got rid of ours. Royal Oak used to have one.
Right.
Like
that, we could like pop up libraries, you know?
I think it'd be great for our community. I'd be all about it. They're expensive, but I think it would work great in Royal Oak.
Yeah. Okay, any other input before it sounds like the policy review committee is going to start thinking about policies, or about, is it policy review that needs to take it up? I think it is. Okay.
We had a nice month off, so I guess it's time to get
now
back.
you're back to work. Carla.
I mean, if budget committee's meeting, I would like to hear how this might affect the budget also. Like, are you going to be able to make this work with the current staffing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do have questions about that too. The feasibility of staffing it is probably my biggest concern with the system.
Mark, and then Aaron.
I would just question the need. I mean, if other libraries are telling you that there's minimal demand for this, and we're going to incur expenses for something that people aren't going to use, I mean, I'm not sure what the point is.
I guess my thought on that is that the van's not costing us anything except gas. So it could be a nice trial period, where then, you know, like we could schedule it, see if it's popular. If it fails, then just stop it, you know, give the van back to DPS, and then it's kind of nothing lost. But we had one of the most successful homebound programs out of even like major libraries like Rochester. We still had more people signed on to ours. So I think that alone might give it a good use, is just to have it available. Like if we advertise it to our normal homebound patrons, and that was our plan too, is to reach out to them first and let them know about this as an option. So I would say that even trying it out in that regard first, even if we didn't open it up to all the public, would make it worthwhile.
That's a nice way to think about it, in terms of a pilot.
Yeah.
And like in these COVID times, right? Like as a maybe temporary thing right now, or maybe you don't have to promise it into the future. Aaron.
I was just wondering, I don't know how it would work with insurance. Can we have volunteers drive the van? Can friends of the library? So we don't have to dedicate staff hours?
That is a good question. I do not know. That'd be something I could ask Dave Gillum.
My other question was just something to think about. Do you have to have a special license? I don't know how big this van is.
No, from what I understand, we do not. Although we do actually have a staff member who has a chauffeur's license who is most interested in doing it, so we may be covered already. But from everything I've heard, you do not need any sort of special license.
Okay, just checking.
Brandon?
So just when we were talking about this later on in the committee, I'm going to want to explore why we would need 2 staff people. I know when Amazon comes to my door, FedEx, UPS, there's 1 person in the truck. So especially if it's a not as utilized service, maybe we start with 1 person, go to 2, you know, talking to the budget committee, see what we can afford for this. But I at least want to explore possibly only using 1 staff member to transport at any given time.
Another thing to think about is having 2 staff people. Can you do it safely in the same car during a pandemic? It's another consideration.
Sure.
Any other, Melanie?
Yeah, so I was going to reiterate, I think, what Erin was talking about. And then when Emily said that about homebound patrons, I was wondering if we should maybe start this slower. Like, I get that the other libraries aren't seeing this demand, but I guess I believe that we're going to. So does it make sense to, like, as a first offering, just say homebound or seniors, and then, like, just limit it to that? And then if we have no demand, we can maybe open it up. So that's just throwing that out there.
I like that idea too, especially like with the senior centers, you know, like maybe contacting the people who coordinate that kind of thing for the different senior centers, and then seeing, you know, if they want to like schedule a big, and that would make the van definitely a good thing to have, you know, like we could schedule big drop-offs for them. But yeah, that's a good way to do it too, is, you know, we can always kind of softly roll it out like that before we just put it out there for everybody.
I think we need a van that size just for all the pictures.
I didn't catch what you said.
You broke up, but I'm sure it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was funny. I'm done. These headphones.
Okay, any other input that you can think of right now around the delivery service before, I guess, policy review meets to hash some stuff out? Or the pilot? It sounds like we're already deciding it's pilot. Okay, we're going to move on from that discussion item then to the final discussion item, which is transferring of secretary's duties. Want to give the background on this?
I feel attacked. I feel attacked.
Would you like to transfer them away from Melanie?
No, not at all. I only put this on there because I've heard that, and I totally understand this, that it's difficult to fully participate in the meetings when you take the notes, and you take such good notes as Melanie does, because hers are very thorough. So this was just a topic of discussion that if you would like to bring in a third party, in this case, I have Stephanie, our administrative assistant. She's all set to go. She said she'd be happy to do it. If you would like to have her take the notes so that you're able to concentrate during the meetings, I wanted to open that up for discussion. But no, it is not an attack. Your notes are amazing.
I want to start by saying if we do go that route, we'll need to revise our bylaws. I'm going to put in the chat what our bylaws say about the duties of secretary. So it clearly says that the secretary has to do it. We could, maybe the policy review committee might want to take this up if there's enough interest, to maybe add a line, you know, the secretary, or the secretary can designate someone, or I don't know how we want to, there could be language added to this, I guess that's what I'm saying, to make it more flexible. I want to just toss that out. And in order to amend our bylaws, we would need a 2/3 vote of the board to amend the bylaws. So, Melanie.
As the secretary. So, I mean, I think we all know that nobody likes being the secretary. And the only reason I'm on the secretary is because I was the nominating committee and I couldn't get anyone to want to do this. But that said, I mean, the fact that it's in our bylaws, I mean, there's 9 of us. I don't know. It feels like bringing another staff member in here is like putting an additional burden on the library. And I mean, like, I would be happy to have someone, I think if we did revise it, it would, like, what would make sense is to have, like, maybe someone else take the notes, and then the secretary could review them and submit them to the board. But it almost seems like that we wouldn't even need need to have a secretary, right? Like, that just becomes a staff position. So I mean, like, on the one hand, it is a lot of work. I don't know. So I mean, I just want to make clear this wasn't coming from me. I didn't say I was trying to get rid of these duties. But yeah, I'm open to others' thoughts.
Mark.
Well, I mean, no offense, Melanie, your notes are very extensive, but you know, it's my experience with meeting notes is that you have a condensation of discussion around a certain point. You don't list everything that everybody says. The action items obviously have to be listed, but I think the responsibilities of the secretary could be lessened if we had a different approach to note taking. And maybe the secretary could just record the meeting or get a recording of the meeting, summarize the discussion around given points, record the decisions made by the body that have to be recorded for purposes of, you know, public review and so on. But you don't need to go so in depth in terms of recording every item that everyone said. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find that, you know, Google taking notes in a public meeting, it'll reiterate what I'm saying.
Our bylaws, in fact, lay out the skeletal minimum for our notes. You are just A+ above and beyond, Melanie, is what's going on. So to Mark's point, I mean, you just have me doing. So, Brandon.
Okay, so this is my fault. This was a casual conversation I had with Emily last week. Probably because my notes are so bad. I serve on a county committee in which we have a secretary and a county staff member takes the notes. The secretary approves them and technically keeps them. I think keeping of the notes and keeping all these things the secretary does is of a bygone era where we didn't have a Google Drive that had a list of everything we ever did in committee appointments. So when I asked Emily about this, it was a comment along the lines of, hey, if we did have a staff person do it, it would definitely free up someone taking notes. And almost everyone here has had to take notes for a meeting. And it is not easy to, even if you're taking the bare minimum of notes, just who made it, what the motion is, who made it, who seconded, did it pass, how did the vote go? Even if you're just taking those 5 things for every discussion, there's a lot to process while also trying to add substantive items to that. So that's where the, hey, do you think we could possibly have a staff person do this and the secretary approve it and submit it, along with all the other traditional secretary duties. So I didn't know it was going to come to a board discussion tonight. I definitely will talk to Melanie or Stacy, or I think there are ways to talk about, but it's I think it's something to discuss and consider because it is taxing. And unless someone wants to step up and be secretary next year right now, it's really taxing.
So as someone who, I do a lot on this board. I'm on a lot of committees, and I don't shy away from getting involved and helping out with things. But if push came to shove and I was required to be secretary, I would quit. Like I don't want to do it. And it seems like no one else does either, because Melanie got stuck with it last year, and it's always like we're always so grateful because one person finally caves and does it, and it really doesn't make a difference to our discussions and our decisions who takes the notes. It doesn't change our outcomes. So the one thing I do see is that, we'd be paying someone to do it. Do we have to, does she have flexibility in her hours so that we don't have to make budget changes, or would we need to make budgetary changes? That's something to consider. I do think that those bylaws would need to be adjusted. What is the role of a secretary? Do we still have one? Is the secretary officially the backup person if a staff member can't be there to do it? So I do think there's more to pursue, but I think it's something to continue to look into because, you know, what I just said, so.
Catherine.
I agree with Carla, and I think it's just from my experience ending up at work, having to, even if we do the bare minimum, which I agree with Mark, that we could probably scale back so you could take less, Melanie, and then, or whoever is the secretary, and still be a participant. But even when doing the bare minimum, it's still very difficult, in my opinion, to be an active member of conversation because you're constantly worried that you're catching what you need to. So I think it should be explored more as well.
Okay. Brandon.
I had Melanie Macy did not mention this at all to me. This in no way originated with her. Because I need to be super clear about this. This was not Melanie Macy. And this will be in the minutes because they are so detailed. She will note that. But this, she in no way complained.
Hello is a jerk.
That's been in every many minutes for the last month.
Okay, so it sounds like there's enough interest for this to head back to policy review, which are meeting anyway. It sounds like around the materials replacement policy, the delivery service pilot, and now some bylaw revision proposals. And again, for those, we'd have to have 2/3 approval of this body in order to pass any changes. I'm pretty sure the committee head will also want to look at other parts of the bylaws to see if there's anything that needs to be updated. They've not been updated, I think, since, is it 2004? I don't know, it's been a minute since they've been updated.
Bylaws are on my original list of things we should look at because it's been a very long time.
There might be some other, here I can tell you, they were updated in February 24th, 2004. So for instance, another part that I think needs to be looked at is there's a part about attending in person. And it was like, you can get on the, you can send in a telegraph, is what it reads like to me. So I feel like that part could probably be revised to be a little more modern. They're like, if you're on the telephone and people can hear you, honestly, it says that in our bylaws. So that's that. Also, does everyone on the board, as I was looking at these, it made me wonder, does everyone on the board have access to the bylaws? You do not have to out yourself right now. And I'm wondering if maybe, we've talked about this before, maybe could these be posted on the city website in our section, just like as an institutional thing? So, because I feel like I ended up with these at one point. They're in the Google Drive, sort of thing. They got migrated over there, but it was like hard to track them down. They were in a binder at one point. I don't know. But I think they should probably go on to the website and to the board section. So yeah, so that they're there. Anyway, so thank you, Policy Review, for taking this on. Erin.
Along that note, when I joined the board, I just wanted all of the policies in one document. And I think I eventually found all the policies, but it was link by link. And I thought, I'm not going to click on each and every link, but I really wanted to read them all, but I didn't because I didn't want to click on every link. So if I could just get a copy of all the policies, one book.
There used to be a binder somewhere.
Or one link
Yeah,
all together.
Right. I think a compiled version and then the separate version makes sense on our website as well.
Yep. That would be awesome.
Searchable, like you can, anyway, I think it's probably a good idea.
I think that it sounds like a short fix, but just the way all the policies are written in such a different manner right now, that it's going to take us a while to get there, I think. Yeah. But that's a really good.
Melanie.
I'm sure no one cares anymore, but I feel compelled to say that if I didn't write down everything everyone said, I could never summarize the discussion. So, that's my laziness instead of having to go back later and be like, what were we saying? So, it's just a fault in my brain. 2 minutes later, I can't remember who said what the plan was.
So here's another thing I want to, as a nod to Melanie's version of note taking, is that it does provide a nice record for us to go back to, even like just in the previous month or like what was going on 3 months ago. It sort of sums that up, the intent, and like for leaving like a trail of institutional memory in the minutes is kind of nice too. But as Mark says, it's not typically how it's done, but I appreciate that about your notes. So I don't know if there's a separate way boards handle that, but maybe in the policy review committee, you'll figure all that out.
I mean, what I should do is go back and summarize the discussion from my notes, but I don't.
Yeah. But maybe you're getting out of it. I don't know. Catherine, were you going to say something, or was it just your arm moving?
I was just saying that Melanie summed it up better than I was. I was trying to get to that, though. I must take notes the same way that you do, where you get it all down because it could be important, but you don't know because it's in the middle of a discussion, and that's what I was trying to get to. And I think I take notes the same way you do, and it becomes cumbersome.
Hey, Emily, can you reach out to Dave Gillum, or maybe they're in the bylaws, but I think to change the bylaws is 2/3 of the board. Is that the board that exists now, or the board at full capacity? So is it 9 members that we're counting on, or 8 members?
It is.
Although it's 2/3 the same number no matter what.
No, it would be
amended upon approval of 2/3 of the trustees then serving.
Oh.
The language. Okay, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Did you get that, Melanie?
Hey, Brandon, it is the same number. It's 6 people no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any discussion about leaving this meeting behind today?
I just want to say once again, what an amazing person Melanie Macy is.
For the record. All right, all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Melanie, let those notes reflect that motion passed unanimously.
Possibly my last.
No, because you'll have to take notes all during until we get to action items. So
And I'm just going to take my hands off the keyboard.
Hey, thank you to Carol and Richard again for helping us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.